let's look a little bit at the brain. The human brain started evolving about 100,000 years ago, which is, in times of evolution, not much. Yeah? So if the entire occurrence or the existence of the Earth was 24 hours, the humans have appeared 10 minutes before midnight. And then, like a nanosecond before midnight, all of a sudden the human brain comes up. And the human brain is significantly different than the mammal brain. It has a third stage of evolution to it. So our brains have 3 different stages of evolution. Everybody of us carries them. One is the so-called reptile brain, yeah, for the lack of a better term. Think of it as very, very old structures that control our instincts. Then we have another function, which is the mammal brain. And the mammal brain contains a lot of our emotions. Part of that is the amygdala, which is the emotional center, or which is labeled as the center. There are no centers there. Don't think of organs. You know, it's not a liver or heart or anything. It's just a structure. And then there is the hippocampus, 2 hippocampuses on each hemisphere, and the hippocampus is in charge for our memory. And then there is the third element, and the third stage of evolution is the so-called prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex, or the neocortex, is the outer layer of our brain, and this is needed for planful thinking, okay, and reasoning. It is used for logic. It is used for analyzing and doing something with it. The prefrontal cortex has an energy consumption 3 times higher than the rest of the brain. So in other terms, planful thinking is very tiring. It is much easier to use different functions of the brains. And there, the other different function of the brain is the limbic system. So the limbic system, that's the mammal brain. And the limbic system is also something that we consider as subconscious in most of the times. This is where our emotions sit. Most of our actually thought processes or processes in our brain are actually subconscious. The ratio between subconscious to conscious processes is estimated to be around 10,000 to 1. So 10,000 times more subconscious stuff than conscious stuff. We do tend to believe that we are rational folks and we control our thinking, we control our emotions. Not quite so. Not quite so. Actually, it is much more the other way around, that we are, to a large degree, controlled by our subconscious. We all have sensors, right? We have eyes, we have ears, we feel temperature, and all of that. Now, in terms of our visual cortex, how many % of the neurons in our visual cortex do you think have an active connection to the outside world? 17%, and the rest is made up. Yeah? So we do see bits and bytes coming in, but the majority of the image that we are seeing is actually made up by our brain. You may have seen an experiment where you can read language, which is where the first and the last letter in the sentence is the same, but everything else is turned around. We can actually make the rest up because we are trained to do that. So why is it that we somehow struggle with the new? So the more we are confronted with stuff that is not predictable, the more we are consuming energy. 1/3 of our energy consumption is due to some basic body functions, but predominantly the brain. That's a lot. Anything that is new takes more energy from us than something that we can predict. So that's message number 1. The other thing is, we have different structures in our brain that are in charge of different things. Okay? And the first structure that is interesting, or the first insight that is interesting, that the brain, our brains, they have a built-in function to try to avoid pain and strive for well-being. The brain does not differentiate between physical pain, emotional pain, or social pain. If I take a hammer and put the hammer on my thumb, or if I have a fight with my wife, or if my friends go out to dinner and don't ask me to join, is exactly the same thing. The same structure in the brain gets triggered. And that structure is called the insula. So what happens? Remember we have 3 stages of our brain. We have the reptile brain, with the mammal brain, and we have the human brain. What happens when the insula gets activated? So the first thing is, something gets triggered, and other things, they get kind of stopped, or they get slowed down, right? So the one structure that gets slowed down is the neocortex. I have neurobiological stress, yeah, so I get, there's adrenaline and noradrenaline, and finally cortisol being produced in my body. And also, the higher brain functions, the neocortex, which is in charge for planful thinking and reasoning, gets deactivated. And what gets activated is my mammal part of the brain, which is the reflexes for, do I fight, do I flee, or do I freeze? But the good thing is, there's also an opposite function. And the opposite function is in charge of well-being. Now, it is not the same well-being that we think about in all fairness. So there were experiments done with mice where they put electrodes. It's all cruel stuff, you know. I mean, if you look at the details, it's like the sausage thing, right? It's like cruel. The insides are cool, but how you get there, I don't know. They put electrodes in the heads into the brains of mice, to be precise, and they put it in a place so that they can actually stimulate their own center of well-being, their own nucleus accumbens. And what happened was that this stimulus was so strong that they would forget drinking, eating, even sex. So when we get this actually activated, what happens is we do experience neurobiological well-being. It means we are creative. All of a sudden we can be better than we normally are. We have the great ideas. In the last hour, then there's the deadline, and all of a sudden all this energy flows to you, and you get the ideas, and you connect the dots, and actually the result is better than had you tried around for a week or something like that, right? So this is this moment of, yes, yeah, this neurological well-being kicks in, higher brain functions get stimulated, and creativity and performance is fostered, it's just enhanced. So research shows so far that there's 6 basic neurobiological functions or needs that needs to be fulfilled in the brain. The first guiding principle is, again, trying to achieve well-being, trying to avoid pain. Survival. Humans are social animals. As I said, about 100,000 years ago, the human brain started to form. Human settlement, the first human settlements, human societies started around 70,000 years ago, and the first high cultures showed up 30,000 years ago. So fairly recently, top of the food chain. We were just part of the food chain there. The guys on the top, these were like saber-toothed tigers and these guys. And we were living in the same area. And we were just prey. Seriously, we were prey. And we were hunting, but we were also being hunted. And since we don't have weapons and tools and all of that cool stuff, which we have now, there was no fire at that time, there was certainly no electricity, no Wi-Fi, no mobile phones. So we were prey most of the times. So in order to survive, there's one thing that you needed to avoid at all costs. To be kicked out of the group was a death penalty. So that means everything inside our brain is geared towards belonging to something. Any idea what could be as important as belonging to something, being opposite to sense of belonging? Growth. You have sense of belonging, so the kids somehow belong to you and the family, but then again, they are growing up, they know how it's going. You don't tell them anything, right? They know the world, and they are living in between sense of belonging and growth and development, and this is important. Now, what does this mean for business? Assuming you have somebody who's part of a team, and now you make him or her the leader of the team. That's a cool thing, right? It's cool for growing, it's cool for developing, but all of a sudden, the former peers don't invite him or her for lunch anymore because it's the boss now. And you don't go lunch with boss because you can't talk freely and you want to chit-chat and brag and all that stuff, right? So you won't. Sense of belonging has been taking a hit, but growth and development is great. So it can be that there's a lot of well-being here, but a bit of social pain over there. Now, this is the strongest axis. everybody in the neuroscience scene agrees that these are the two strongest poles, or bipolars, if you want, antidotes. Now there are some others though, and they play an important role for change. So the one is orientational control, okay? So think of the following. I ask you to dive in a swimming pool. Now, swimming in a swimming pool is hard. Diving in a swimming pool is a bit harder. And there's two scenarios. One is, it is dark, and I tell you, I think that in 20 meters there's the other side, and there you can breathe again. I'm not quite sure. Might be 21 meters. You will find out. Yeah? Or I tell you, there's light. You can see the other side, and it's a tough one, but you'll get there. So, what chances of success is higher? But this is exactly the situation in change, right? They tell you to change, but they don't tell you when it's over, and they cannot assure you, or you cannot assure them, that when it's over, everything is going to be fine again. What could be very, very important for the brain, and be somehow in the other direction of orientation and control? Autonomy and self-efficacy. Do you know the term being master of your own destiny? That's self-efficacy. Having the conviction that you can change something in your own circumstances, that you can influence your fate, okay? So, being autonomous and having a lot of self-efficacy is important for humans. And you see this, again, you can see this first in children, right? They want to try out new things. No, 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 Dad, no, 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 Mom, I can do that. And either they do it or don't, but, you know, they try. They want to. But they also need some guidance, some basic directions. And with adults and employees, it's just the same thing, right? Change gets way better if you give people the feeling that they can influence something. But careful, people are intelligent. Yeah? So they do notice when it's just fake. Like, the worst thing I think can happen is like when you do all these co-creation workshops with your people, and then you say, thank you, put it in the dustbin, and then you do what you always wanted to do. They will do this exactly once, because they'll figure it out. I mean, you don't hire people because they're dumb, right? Third one has to do with my self-worth and status. So we all have, more or less, an intrinsic want to actually stabilize or improve our self-worth and status. The opposite of self-worth is fairness and appropriateness. So already babies have a good sense of what is fair and what is unfair. This is a feeling that is deeply ingrained into the basic structure of our brain. And the problem is, these things are dichotomies. So there's three dichotomies, so three pairs of basic needs that are mutually exclusive, and leading is as simple as putting them in congruence. Yeah? So from a neurobiological perspective, good leadership means putting them in congruence. So this is when you have a balance around it which does not create too much pain and is okay for well-being. We cannot be great all the time, but at least we shouldn't be suffering most of the time. So let's start with the beginning. So we have the burning platform, right? Let's do the textbook thing. Burning platform, what happens? So status quo is no longer an option, folks. We need to change, otherwise Tesla will kill us. Da, 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 da. No, the Thatcher in front of his people, it's not changed. I mean, status quo is not an option. We need to change. We don't actually know how, but we will. So what's the first thing that kind of gets triggered?
Orientation control.
Orientation control, exactly, right? So what happens to orientation control? Yeah, so pain gets activated. Okay, oh yeah, exactly, yeah. So, okay, we're getting restructured, and by the way, I'm the one that is getting out-structured, yeah? I'm the one that is kind of losing. Or let's talk about transformation. I'm the one that is being disrupted, yeah? So all of a sudden, fairness and appropriateness kicks in, and that's another pain thing. That means my creativity goes down. That means my higher brain function goes down. But what will be more important is probably if we can connect it, because this is stronger, how can I personally grow? So then what happens is first changes get implemented, and then what happens then? Now there's different elements that I would like to share with you, and I understand that I can distribute the slides to you, and this is so what are behaviors that are helpful or not so helpful in this particular context, right? So if you look at this axis, for example, So, if you want to improve sense of belonging, what are concrete actions that you can be doing in order to improve the sense of belonging of your people or people affected by change that you are driving? In terms of what can we do to make it worse, arrogance helps, not showing interest, being ignorant, excluding people, being aloof, overly rational, I'm not people's overused rationality. What I can do, show authentic interest, show appreciation, also for the fact that it might be hard to go through change, to go through uncertainty. Try to listen to understand, not try to listen to respond. I don't really care what you're saying, I'm just waiting for you to breathe so that I can put my reply out. And knowing the strengths and weaknesses of yourself and also of the other person. And then also talking about how can we actually co-create this? How can we make you from becoming a victim to somebody who's actually co-creating it, co-shaping it? Yeah? How is this actually possible? Growth and development. How do we hamper this? How do we make it worse in a professional way? So we can treat employees as a threat. Because when they make a career, maybe our job is in danger. Okay? So that's a good idea to keep them away. Yeah? So we just treat them as a threat. We keep them on a arm's length, kind of. Yeah? We don't give them feedback for performance. You get paid if you do your job. I've told you once that you do a good job, and I will tell you next year. And that's it. Or I focus only on the results, then taking also the individual development and the challenge that it took to get there, the effort into account. I just take standard performance for granted, which, frankly, many managers do. Yeah? Or, on the other side, I can help employees to grow. I can help employees to use the change for their own personal growth, to connect it to their own values. I can give them constructive and helpful feedback. Not from a perspective to tell them you've done this, that, and the other thing wrong, but from the perspective of, hey, good try, next time, focus on that one. Yeah? And we can give them stretch assignments, so we can actually look at tasks not from the perspective of how to complete a task, but how can I give a task to a person that I can get the task completed and the person can grow. Next one, orientation and control versus autonomy and self-efficacy. So, orientation and control in the change process, how do you make it worse? Here's the idea. Withhold relevant information. It has not been consulted with the Works Council yet, we cannot release anything. The meeting got postponed, and then 4 months without any information. Yeah? Unpredictable behavior and inconsistent decisions. That's also a good one, right? I do left, right. And everybody's confused because they don't get the big picture. Why am I doing this? Or, what is also a nice one is, I don't have a structured communication style, but my communication is I talk to anybody that I meet, and then I give them different messages. That's cool. Yeah? And then they talk to each other, and they're totally confused. Yeah? Or, I do make an effort and put resources behind it to share information in a timely manner with employees. I show predictable behavior and consistent decisions, and if they are not consistent, I try to explain why. I'm trying to be democratic in my use of information, and I'm trying to be good with expectation management. Expectation management is more important than bonus payment. So, if somebody gets an appreciation without expecting it, the positive effect is 10 times higher than if he's expecting it. Or in other terms around, if you're expecting a bonus of X, and then you're getting a bonus of X minus 20%, is the center of well-being activated or the pain center? Yeah? And last two, so autonomy and self-efficacy. So missing or poor delegation. If you become your best expert, and all the others, they just get tasks thrown over the fence, doesn't help. Yeah? Because they don't understand the big picture. Micromanagement. Okay, I want a daily report on how you're doing things. And by the way, I don't only want you to do them, I also want you to do them in a particular way, which is precisely the way I'm doing it, by the way. Because I know better, right? The other thing is empowering them, but not only with outtasking, but by giving them the full story and giving them the responsibility to decide and to back them up in front of your boss. As opposed to saying, well, that was his fault, I'm sorry, I mean, it's, it wasn't aligned with me. So based on trust, and also coach employees in a way that they become better, which then connects again to the growth element and to the self-efficacy. So the thing is congruence. Yeah? Is this an easy task? No. Clearly not. Clearly not. But at least now you may have a little bit of a coordinate system, and you can check your own leadership decisions against, or leadership behavior against that. By the way, if you want to start, try to analyze the leadership behavior of people that you're reporting to, but don't stop there, because you will find a lot of things that don't go right. But then apply it to yourself, yeah, and see how easy it is to do this in congruence and work with that. So now you may ask the question, so is that worth it? This seems to be complicated, that it's 6 dimensions. Humans can optimize their behavior according to 7 KPIs, that's very close to it. Yeah? So 6 dimensions, is it worth it? And many times it is biased because of capital market effects. This is a privately held company, it's easier to manage. I'm not saying it's black and white, but I'm saying there's a lot of stuff to look at before, or, we can optimize systems, we can optimize processes, but optimizing leadership is a huge knock-on effect on the bottom line. Okay, if you want to read about it, there's books, and there's my email address, and you will get that. And with that, before I keep you too long from your cocktail, thank you very much for your attention.